Let's cross to correspondent Nick Spicer. Nick, what's the latest where you are?
Well, we're watching them begin a news conference, but the meeting that they have had has been one where, they've come together after meeting the new American president in the context of NATO and in the context of talking about the European Union. Of course, that's a big deal because the previous American president didn't think NATO was particularly useful. It was ripping off the United States. Joe Biden came and said, America is back, and underlined the security guarantee that NATO offers all of its members, the security guarantee which Donald Trump called into question. And he also underlined the value of the European Union. So it's a whole new world for the Franco-German couple, France and Germany, Macron and Merkel, to work within, even though Angela Merkel is set to leave the stage after 16 years in office. Now, this is Angela Merkel's first foreign visitor since the pandemic, and it's perhaps their last sort of tete-a-tete meeting before she leaves office. So they're about to have dinner after this press conference that is unfolding now, and I imagine they'll have a lot of words to say, because at one point, let's remember, during the Trump era, many people looked to them as the leaders of the free world. It was either Macron and Merkel, so they felt a lot of weight on their shoulders. Now I think there's a sense of shared responsibility with the United States, and a feeling that things can move forward once again.
And listening to you, Nick, you get the sense that the sort of long goodbye for Merkel has begun in earnest. We had that last joint cabinet meeting, which they stage regularly between the French and the Germans. All this, of course, in the build-up to those September elections where you are.
There is a long goodbye, and I think it's kind of interesting, François, to consider that she's dealt with 3 French presidents in 16 years in office, and there's what a variety of personalities there has been. There's been Nicolas Sarkozy, the man they called the omnipresident, l'omniprésident, or Speedy, and what a contrast between her slow scientific approach and his very visible, dynamic approach. They didn't seem to get along as well as they should have, being both politicians of the center-right. And then, of course, François Hollande came along, and there was a lot of disagreements over what to do during the sovereign debt crisis. The socialist president of France, of course, calling quite typically for spending Europe's way out of the crisis, of providing financial guarantees to the ailing country, Portugal, Italy, Greece, and Spain, for instance, and Merkel steadfast against that. So a split there. And then when Macron came along, there was, I think, a sort of convergence of views, particularly when he made that big speech at the Sorbonne about casting a new vision forward for the future of Europe. But the timing was wrong, not to get into the internal politics, and Merkel, I think, couldn't quite agree with him and push forward as much as she could. The real coming together of the Franco-German couple, once again, and really pushing things forward in Europe, and they're seeing eye to eye, came thanks to the coronavirus pandemic, where Germany gave up on its European budgetary orthodoxy and decided to agree to a 750 billion euro plus fund to kickstart the European Union economy. So there's, as she leaves office, I think a new tightness to the Franco-German couple that hasn't really been there for well over a decade. François?
Nick Spicer reporting live there from Berlin. Many thanks for that update.